Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm sure this movie could give you another reason not to go in the water.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss The Beach House, which released in 2019 from writer-director Jeffrey A. Brown. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Emily and Randall, a young couple who have gone to Randall's family's beach house for a bit of a dirty weekend. When they get there, they meet Jane and Mitch, an older couple who have also been given permission to stay at the beach house for the weekend. As the four of them settle in, they notice something strange in the air coming from the ocean, and Emily realizes that they are all in serious danger.
So this is Jeffrey Brown's feature film debut.
Oh, yeah.
He'd actually, looking at his IMDb page, had done a couple of short films, but he'd mostly worked throughout his career as a location scout manager for over 40 movies.
Wow. Nice.
So I was like, okay, so this guy's had some experience, but yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that this was his debut film, and it's premiered at a film festival, and then was subsequently picked up by Shudder, who got exclusive rights to stream the film in all territories.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised. Obviously, this was a director I'd never heard of, a film that I'd never heard of as well. So I was pleasantly surprised when to look up the film that a lot of people were saying it's very much so a Lovecraftian kind of adaptation. So I was immediately kind of intrigued by it.
Yeah.
But also, as I've heard you say many a times, I do like the Shudder channel. However, the quality of the movies on there sometimes will vary.
Yes.
Quite rapidly between good and stuff you don't really want to watch.
Yeah.
Being nice.
Yeah,
Trying to
being
be
nice. It's not like I don't like Shudder. It's just, Shudder's not Netflix. Shudder's not, in the cinema. I don't think I've known many films to go to the cinema and then, hey, we're going to Shudder. It's literally they are made and they go to Shudder, and I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Well, I don't say. We're talking about streaming services now. Yeah. But I honestly think that Shudder's come quite a long way. Because when I first subscribed to Shudder, I was just like, I don't see my subscription lasting, and it didn't. And then, like years and years later, I'm like, they're still going.
Well, yeah,
and their library has vastly, increased.
Because first-time directors, first-time film creators are saying, like, look, I've got this film, nobody else is picking it up, and this horror streaming service is like, well, we'll take it. And not that this film is bad. It's all right, but I was very good. I didn't wiki it.
What the?
I know. I was just like, I was making my notes, and I was like, you know what, Iain? Let's go into this raw. Let's see what happens, because from the poster,
I'm guessing I knew more about the film going into it than you did.
Oh, totally.
First.
That's it. Well, the poster was literally just, the main actress, Liana Liberato, who plays Emily, just kind of the top of her head from her eyes, looking at you from these beach steps. So I honestly thought going into it that it was some kind of like relationship kind of torment, maybe, sleeping with the enemy type thing.
Well, it's funny that you should say that. Okay. Because the writer-director has said in interviews that, some of the inspiration for writing this film came when he went to a beach house with his girlfriend and experienced a terrible breakup.
Oh.
So I was like, well, we've kind of we may not all had breakups at a nice beach house, but we've all experienced breakups. So I was like, well, okay, I understand that's where the emotion's coming from.
Yeah.
And we get to see it with our two characters, is that the relationship, it seems loving, but also you can tell that something's not quite right.
Yeah.
Apparently they're trying to reconnect and rebuild on this relationship, but I could tell that she probably needs to get away from him. But also the director did say that he drew from his other inspirations and his love for 50s sci-fi.
Nice,
So
yeah.
His inspirations were listed as Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Aliens, Shivers, The Quatermass Experiment, and a couple of others. So, straight away, I knew all this going into the film, so that got me very excited.
Yeah, I'm sat there watching this couple drive up, and I mean, weirdly enough, the opening had set it so that there was something weird with the ocean. There was something weird in the water. We could see
It's the
this.
opening shot, isn't it?
Yeah, we can see this stuff kind of bubbling up underneath the ocean, and you're like, oh, okay. That's kind of where my mind was like, oh, Ian, there's no sleeping with the enemy. There's some kind of weird fucked up shit that's going to come out from the water and do some bad stuff to some people. And I was really surprised because, like I said, I'm using Wikipedia to research my notes, and I realized there's only 4 actors in the whole movie. You know, we've got Liana Liberato playing Emily. We've got Noah Gros playing Randall, who, like, I don't think Noah Gros has been in anything else.
I didn't recognize anyone but one actor in this film.
Yeah, well, we've got Marianne Nagao, who plays Jane Miller, and Jake Weber, who plays Mitch Miller. And Jake I instantly recognize as the main guy from Dawn of the Dead, the remake.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, who works with Sarah Polley. And like I said, watching Emily and Randall drive up to the beach house is really nice. You know, you can see where the director's location scouting kind of expertise came in.
Well, apparently the place was the producer of the film's father's beach house.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So basically they got it for free.
Yeah, but at the same time, when they go in there, I'm like, you can totally tell they're renting this place or Airbnb, so don't touch anything. Don't make a mess.
Well, it was also off-season, which also explains why when they look around, there's nobody around.
There's nobody there. It's absolutely empty. And I really kind of like that. You know, it settles you into being isolated from the rest of the world. But immediately they walk in, you know, and Emily and Randall are kind of, like I said, they're trying to rekindle this romance that we don't know why they've kind of stopped hanging out. But he's like, what do you want to do? And she's like, she just gives him this look. And they go upstairs and I'm like, oh, that's a bit awkward. Like, sex right at the beginning. I was really surprised there wasn't a sex sequence.
Yeah, just the after. Yeah.
Just the after. But even then, when you get to the after, she's lying there, Emily, looking at the ceiling, kind of feeling uncomfortable to the point where, like, she's had sex, but doesn't look like it was the greatest thrilling experience of her life.
No.
You know, and then she gets up and...
Now, I just want to bring up, it's kind of I only really noticed it with this movie. It's kind of like a small pet peeve. But, like, if you're in bed with your lover, like, how often do they, like, you know? It always bugs me when they get up and, like, they hold the duvet. She's literally dragging it off him as she gets away to get dressed almost in private. So I was like, it's either just to preserve, you know, the actress's modesty. You know,
I went with that, yeah.
Or it's the fact that she really just doesn't want to be with him.
Kind of a bit of both. I noticed that as well, where I was just like, they're trying to hide the boobs, which... in movie terms, if you can do that, you're getting, what, a 15 rating?
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, but at the same time, the way that Noah Gross's Randall character is kind of interacting with Emily, she's really uncomfortable. It's not like he's giving her grief, but he's saying to her, like, oh yeah, you should totally give up your college
master's degree,
your master's degree and all that, and we should just move into this house here and live here for the rest of our lives. And she kind of mentioned something about it being his dad's place, which then he kind of just ignores. So you know that there's something wrong with Randall and his dad, which I didn't see who wrote the story. I don't know if it was
same director, right?
Same director. Yeah. So we've said it before. You know, when you've got a serious skill working behind film, sometimes writing it and then directing it isn't where your talents lie. But I did like the fact that Emily, you know, after she's gone toilet, she notices something's weird with the water. And then she happens to go downstairs and notices in the kitchen that there's plates with half-eaten food on there. You know, she's kind of noticed that there's pills in the bathroom as well with Jane's name on it. So you're like, someone's here. And then we see Jane come in. So it's still at this point, I didn't know it was sci-fi. I thought it was going to be like The Visit.
Right. You know? Well, yeah, it's a home invasion movie.
Yeah, going to go mental, yeah.
Yeah, and so she creeps back upstairs, she gets dressed. She's just like, look, there's somebody down there. Go down there and see. And then she's not there. So it's like, oh, okay, where did she go? Oh, no. But they do eventually meet up with Jane and with Mitch, and they explain that, yeah, you know, the father had also given them permission to stay there.
Yeah.
And of course, because he hadn't, you know, because Randall hadn't told his dad that he was going to be staying there. There's the conflict, and you know, and then Mitch is like, well, I'm an expert cook, so you know, I can't wait to have dinner with everyone and share the experience. So it's just like, okay, so, and this is where my problem with the movie starts to go, because we're getting to like 15 minutes, 20 minutes into the film, and I'm like, okay, we've had some interesting character bits, but it's the actual plot of the film isn't going anywhere.
No.
Like we're just establishing these characters, and then they're having conversations, which is quite foreshadowing because she starts to explain about planets and how they're formed and how they're inhospitable for so long,
Yeah,
gases, particles, and how just one tiny little element could cause catastrophic change on on a planetary level. So
Yeah.
okay, there's very cosmic horror kind of stuff being mentioned.
Yeah,
we've
real,
had the hints with the water.
It was real convenient that her skills were in exactly what we needed for the movie.
Well, it's probably why we're following this character. Yeah.
I want to study astrobiology at the University of Washington. They have a great program.
What is that? Life on other planets?
Kind of. It actually has more to do with life on this planet. How organisms can adapt to extreme environments that we could not even survive.
But they're sat there, they're having lunch, they're having dinner, and they're having a couple of glasses of wine. And, Jake Weber's probably the best actor out of all four of them. I mean,
he's the most recognizable, and I do also agree that I think he gives the strongest performance.
Yeah, the other people are actually really trying to establish their characters, but like Gary said, these characters aren't really going to go anywhere. So we're hearing about Jane, she's ill, and that's why she's on this medication. We don't know why. We don't know what it does. We don't know what she has.
Well, from the conversations that Mitch has, because he talks about, again, it's a parallel to what will happen in the film about a transformation, and how it's irreversible. And I think some of the tablets there will reference or are for medicating dementia or Alzheimer's,
right?
And there's also something there to keep the emotions in check as well. So I'm guessing that's what it is. And I mean, at first when she turned up, I thought she was blind. I thought she was a blind lady because she doesn't even look at them. She's kind of looking away from them. I was like, she's a blind lady. So no threat. But no, it's other medical issues.
But it's the same with Randall. Like, Emily's already established her character and what her character is doing and what she wants to do with her life. And Randall's just like, oh, well, I went to college and I didn't really like it, so I dropped out, and my dad didn't like it, and I don't want to work for the rest of my life. And I'm like, okay, so I did like the fact that I started not liking Randall and thought he was a dick. And then when I wanted bad things to happen to him, by that point, I didn't want them to, because I'd kind of grown to actually start to like the guy.
Well, we get a hint that something's probably going to happen to him when we get the oyster moment, when we see that something is moving in that oyster.
Oh, yeah.
And, he swallows it, and they joke about how he, used to eat them all when he didn't really know what they were and threw them up. And
yeah, no, don't do oysters, even if they're not fucking weird alien creatures from space. But they realise they're out of alcohol, and Randall's just like, well, do any of you partake in edibles? And I was like, whoa, okay, this is going to go somewhere. Let's see where this goes. And he pulls out this big bar of chocolate that he's bought, and Emily's really questioning it, like, are we sure we want to share some of this? She's medicated, something could go wrong, blah, blah. And I understand all the risks and things like that. But the fact that the Millers themselves are like, what do we do? Do we just chop it up? So I'm like, hey, yeah, let's fucking get down. And so the next sequence, they've all had the edibles and they put some funky music on and Mitch is doing the dishes. But this is where the movie now goes, okay, sci-fi time. Weird shit's gonna happen. And while Emily's talking, or Jane's talking to Emily kind of closes her eyes, and when she opens her eyes again, everyone's fucked off.
Right.
just left her sitting there with her eyes closed. I'm like, you didn't at least prod her and move her and stuff like that. But she wanders outside, and everybody outside is looking and noticing this weird kind of purple lit, weird, dusty, I don't know.
All these particles just flowing across, and she's like, well, something's come from the ocean or from the clouds or some kind of vapor.
Yeah.
And it's blowing into the trees, and eventually Jane kind of wanders out of the house on her own a bit later on in the night, and we can see all these particles are kind of formed and growing something. It's blurry, but it's kind of very kind of cosmic in its colouring as well. So all this blue, light blue colours, and she wanders in there, and of course she starts touching it, because as you do in a horror movie.
Yeah. And then the weird fog starts to come. I mean, as an experienced film watcher, with all this weird cosmic horror shit going on, that this fog is not a normal fog. And so when it does roll in, Emily starts complaining that there's a smell. Rando's pretty much passed out on the floor. Mitch has disappeared. Jane is wandering through the woods. So they're all kind of interacting with the spores or whatever in their own little way. And I was sat there like, okay, I know exactly where this is all going to happen, and I know exactly who I would kill off in what order as the film has established it to me. But I am interested how this film's going to go on such a small budget, because visually, I'm really enjoying myself.
Oh yeah, I think the cinematography here is really, really nice. They got some good composition, some good framing. It's just, the content of the story is just absent for the most part.
Yeah.
And so when the sci-fi aspect started to kick in, that's when my interest started to pick up. But I have to say, I was already bored at this point.
Wow.
Because it was 30 to 45 minutes of just some character stuff, and I do like character stuff, but I also like the character stuff when the story is moving forward.
Yeah.
That first 45 minutes, there is no story.
No.
It's just some character interactions when they eat and get high and go wandering around in the dark when there's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, I got to admit, I had to keep telling myself to put my phone down. Because I was getting bored. I'm looking at the time. I'm then going to go check something, and I'm still listening to the phone because nothing's really happening.
Yeah.
And I'm just picking up the story, and then I'm like, no, put it down because something's going to happen, and if you miss it, you'll be annoyed. And I just kept 3 or 4 times I kept having to do that to myself, especially over this period where like Emily passes out. Then
there's a lot of people passing out and crawling around on the floor and huddling around or not doing very much for the first hour.
Well, it's the producer's house. They can't really fuck the place up, mate. They can't Evil Dead the shit out of it.
Man. Yeah.
But I get what you mean, because like she goes up the stairs, doesn't she, to find out what's going on, because Mitch has gone off and found Jane. And then when she goes upstairs, you can hear Jane violently being sick and vomiting, and Mitch does this weird look at her, and you close the door, and you could put it down to the marijuana, I suppose, but I'm like, fuck that shit.
That's one of the annoying things about this film, is that like from the moment they took the drugs, you're just like, well, that's it. Like this whole film is not really happening. They're just on a fucking drug, marijuana trip. No, I don't think it's that effective.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was the fact that like the next morning she wakes up and she wakes Randall up and she's just like, look, it's midday already, and he's like, oh man, why is it so hot? Oh, it's a beautiful day, we should go outside. But they're complaining about something being in the air. They can just feel it. Emily comes down the stairs and she finds Jane sat at the table again, much like she'd done the day before, but Jane is
noticeably affected. Her skin's changed. She doesn't talk. Her demeanor's changed.
I mean, give it to Marianne Nagau's as an actress. She did really sell this. I'm consumed by something that's not earthly, and she kind of wanders off.
I mean, here's another reason to not like Randall very much, is that as she's struggling up the stairs, Randall just stands there and he just looks at her. Say, you all right?
He just backs up against the wall.
Yeah, he's like, well,
Ryder?
let's help her up the stairs. Come on.
They walk all the way down to the beach, don't they? They take this really nice path down.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, it's so hot. Where is everybody? What should we do? I'm just going to lie down. I'm like, neither of you have got any suntan lotion.
Back to sleep.
You fall asleep on this beach for at least 30 minutes, you are going to burn. What the fuck are you even thinking? And this is where Randall kind of wakes up after a minute, complaining about stomach cramps. So immediately I was just like, oh, something's in you, mate. Something's doing something. And he wanders off. And then all of a sudden, Mitch is there. He literally came out of nowhere. He sat next to Emily and he's talking about how weird everything seems and where everybody is. And that's the reason why him and Jane like coming here, because there was always something, but it's so weird. And it leads to one of my favorite moments of the entire film, where it coincides with Randall. Randall kind of goes up to the house, goes in to go toilet, and when he comes out, he can hear Jane in another room. So as he goes in to help her, it cuts back to Mitch and Emily, and you're like, oh fuck, I wanted to see what happened there. And Mitch is just like, you know what? I'm gonna go for a swim. And it's just this one big wide shot. I don't know if it was Jake Webber, the actor, or it could have been a stunt double.
It might have been him for the first shot. Then it cuts back to Emily. Then it's probably back to the stunt person.
Yeah, and you just watch this person just walk out. Not walk out and swim like a normal person would. They literally just kept walking and walking and walking until all of a sudden their head just disappeared.
Yeah. And Emily starts screaming out for him, but
Yeah.
he's not coming back.
No.
But something's coming out of the water though, or it was just already there. I mean, I don't know how it happened because like we saw the wide shot, there was nothing there, and then all of a sudden Emily's standing in it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty damn gross. I mean, it looks like a cross between a jellyfish and a Cornish pasty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like that. It's got tentacles, and at first I thought it was jellyfish. Like, oh, she's been stung, and then she looked at her leg, and something crawled or burrowed its way into her foot. So now she's
Freaking gross.
Oh yeah, it was. Like you could see where the budget of the movie actually really went. Like if they were saving money on the location, on how many actors they've got on set, then they definitely took most of the money and put it into the prosthetics for what now we're seeing is affecting these people. And I did like the fact that she's got to crawl all the way up the stairs to the beach house. So when she gets up, she actually makes the image that's on the poster.
Yeah,
So it's like, hey, save some money.
It's a great shot as well. Yeah. And I mean, the gross out nature of this moment continues as well as she makes her way into the kitchen. She finds this purified like white vinegar.
Yeah.
Pours it over her foot. Screams. She grabs the knife. She grabs the tongs. We can see this little like worm thing poking its head in and out as it's already made its way into her foot, and yeah, it's horrendous. It's horrible, and the actress sells this really, really well as she manages to eventually pull the whole thing out. So we're like, okay, we're actually seeing some kind of like evolution of what this thing is, from like the vapors that were floating along to the things in the tree, whatever it was she stood on. So we're like, okay, so whatever this parasite or molecule or whatever it is now, it's probably done what it did to the sea life, the sea creatures that washed up on the shore, whatever it's doing to the trees, and now whatever it's doing to the people.
Yeah.
Now it's probably airborne, right? Because everyone's mentioning that they're breathing it, they can smell it, they can taste it. So I think it's airborne, so they're all infected anyway. But also to a much larger degree, we saw Jane. She obviously touched the stuff on the tree.
Yes.
So we imagine, and obviously we also saw Randall consume the creature as well, so we imagine those ones would be affected much quicker. But no, also Mitch was like the first one to die.
Yeah, like I couldn't tell what Mitch actually had wrong with him, other than he was feeling a little bit weird, and then he just decides to go for a swim. So the creatures made him go for a swim, or the director just ran out of money to pay Jake Weber anymore. Because she's upstairs and she's kind of trying to get her shit together because she wants to get out. She can't find her boyfriend's keys. And I did like the fact that we then see Randall kind of blurred image in the background crawling away. And she comes out and she's like, Randall, what's wrong? And he's just like, oh, I was in the room with with Jane. And Jane comes out the room and her eyes are all covered in white. She's blind. She's kind of like a zombie, but she's crawling, so she's kind of after some help. And Randall doesn't really go into explanation about what she did to him. We just know that the two of them have to escape, and so they do. They escape out. Fucking Jane comes smashing out through that glass window, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's after she took a tumble down the stairs.
Yeah. She's just this woman is not stopping. And they realise they haven't got the car keys anymore, so they can't get in the car, and they've got to keep moving. And then the fog rolls in again and starts to really consume everywhere around them. And Randall and Emily start to really be affected by the fog. They're coughing really badly. They're having trouble breathing. Randall's really struggling with whatever's in his stomach. He knows that there's something wrong. And they come across an abandoned police car, I think it is, or a beach car. And Emily uses the radio to contact somebody, and you can barely hear it really, which works and doesn't work.
Yeah,
the audio was pretty bad, but the person on the radio is just like, get out, get indoors, get out of the fog. Stop breathing it. It's infected. It's a parasite of some type.
So I'm just like, well, how quick did they understand what was going on? Considering our characters were on the front line, so to speak. I was like, well, maybe. Oh, we find out later on that it's actually gone global. This thing,
yeah.
Which is, I was just like, well, that quickly? Like the entire ocean just spat these things out everywhere. And then I was like, well, what's the science of this thing really? I'm like, well, it's come from the bottom of the ocean, like. The surface is a completely different biodome to what's down there. How is this thing surviving? How is it adapting? We're not going to get any answers. The entire film loves to play with the ambiguity of whatever it is and whatever it actually is doing.
Yeah.
There is no explanation other than what we see presented to us in the film, which I'm kind of fine with because that, again, adheres to that Lovecraftian nature.
Yeah.
So We do, however, get to see a kind of near, I would say, final evolution of what to expect, human bodies to turn into when it's undergoing this metamorphosis, I suppose.
Yeah, because they break into this house to get out of the fog, and Emily's trying to seal it all up. Randall's all fucked up upstairs, and she opens up the basement, which I was just like, that's the last place I would fucking go into, but it's the first one for her. And she heads down there and she finds a scuba tank, diving gear there. Luckily, Emily had explained at lunch that she's trying to get her scuba diving, license. So she knows how to use this stuff. Yay, movie.
I mean, I don't know how this stuff works, but somebody has reported that, considering she is supposed to be a diver, she uses the apparatus upside down.
Yeah,
I was like, oh.
Well, it's the point where she's kind of twisting it, and then the oxygen starts to come out. So she starts breathing on it, and I'm like you said, the science. If she's already ingested or breathed in a lot of these fucking spores, breathing in this oxygen is just literally just going to do shit other than make it easier to move around.
I do have a small theory as to maybe why she is not succumbing like everybody else is.
Okay.
She's the only one in the movie we see smoking.
Yes, that is true.
Maybe smoking is saving her life.
That is true. Her lungs are so fucked up she can't breathe that well.
Because the film definitely has global warming's going to kill us all, Oh no, we're destroying the planet ourselves, which is why this thing is happening. It's going to wipe out humanity now and start over. but the film's just like, with a smoker. Whoa.
But I love that little bit with Jake Weber where he's like, hey, you're a scientist and you're trying to change the world. And she's like, yeah, I know, it's my only vice. So what are you going to do? Fucking kill me, bitch? I'm just like, she's gonna smoke herself to death and save the world at the same time.
But we do get the reveal of this corpse that is being consumed by this liquidated jellyfish man.
Yeah, so is that one of the fish people that has...
That's a human that's been infected and is undergoing, because he's got the grey eye. Well, actually, his eyes are kind of all... I don't know, it's hard to...
That's what I was trying to figure out, because, I was like, so is this what Jane's going to turn into?
I think so, yes.
Because what is it doing to the guy on the floor? Because the guy on the floor
is dead.
He's dead. He hasn't got any white eyes. Is he being used as a host? Is it eating him? We don't even see it long enough.
Yeah.
And she doesn't interact with it in any way that we get to actually understand it. She's out of there. She's back upstairs. But while she's been down there, Randall has been consumed by whatever's in him, and you kind of knew it was coming. But like we said, he'd been a bit of a dick, but I didn't think it was a good way to go. I felt actually generally quite sad because the two of them, in this serious situation, love had started to set in. That she didn't want him to die, she didn't want him to be afraid, and he was like, I am terrified because I know I'm going to die. This is killing me. So that was kind of cool. Not a lot, but it was enough to make me go, it's a shame this guy's going to get his head smashed in by the scuba diving gear. And guess what she does? She comes up and goes, oh my god, you turned into a weird fucking alien. I have to smash your head in with the scuba diving gear.
Well, she double taps.
She does. I mean, does she knock him out? Because I honestly expected the blood smash all over the floor.
Well, it's like you said earlier, though. You can't cause a mess in
somebody else's house, yeah. But then she finds some car keys, the owner of the house's car keys, and she grabs the breathing apparatus and she rushes out into the car and she's driving, but she can't see where she's going because the fog is so thick. And then ultimately she ends up crashing, stumbling out of the car and falling into some water. So now you're like, oh, you're fucked. And I honestly thought that was it. That was going to be the end of the movie. And then it cuts to another shot of the ocean, much like we'd seen from the beginning of the movie.
And then I imagine there's a supermarket over the other side with a bunch of people in there being hauled up as the creatures are pressed up against the glass. It's a precursor to the mist. You're just going to wait for the military to show up with flamethrowers.
Thomas Jane's like, ah!
But no, she's crashed the car into a tree and somehow passed out again.
Yeah.
and she ends up waking up. I mean, the camera follows from this pond over the sand and then to the beach, and there she is laying close to the shore.
I honestly thought that was Mitch. I was like, oh shit,
he's back.
Mitch has come back. But no, it's Emily. She's lying there, her eyes all white. She's kind of consumed, and she's telling herself, don't be scared. don't be scared, don't be scared, don't be scared. And then the water just comes up and the waves go recede and she's gone. Literally, like, the water just evaporated her, dissolved her, stole her body. I don't know, but that was the end of the movie. And I was like, ah.
Yeah, I was not impressed with the ending. I was like, it's
well,
fine.
This isn't an impressed face. This is more like a,
oh, okay, that's how we're going to do it. I mean, yeah, because like we hear on the radio that it's gone global, that it's an annihilation event. And I'm like, but like, is it really? Like, is it gone all the way across the desert? Like, is it hit every building? It's like, is nobody burning it with fire?
Well, that's
I don't
it.
know.
Immediately, I was just like, flamethrowers,
right.
nukes, sharp sticks. We're like, this shit would never make it to Texas because they fucked that shit up.
Right.
You know, you try bringing that down to a neighborhood in fucking London and see how far you get as a fucking blind alien woman crawling on the floor. You get your fucking head stomped. But at the same time, if that fog has literally rolled properly in and people have been infected, you're looking at like maybe 4 or 5 days and that's it. Everybody's wiped out. I mean, I get why the radio's saying it because the movie's like, look, we've got to wrap this up.
Right.
Everybody's dead, Dave. Everybody's dead.
Well, Iain, what were your favourite scenes?
I really only had 2 favourite sequences. The first one was when Jane wandered down into the woods and she saw all the weird spory blue shit on the trees. Like, high or not, if I see that shit, I'm gone. I'm not fucking walking up and touching it. And going, oh, that's kind of weird, you know, and then being enveloped by a fog and then turned. No, you see shit like that, you know it's wrong. The whole place is blue, okay? It's not supposed to be blue. In the Mouth of Madness taught me that it's not supposed to be blue. My other favourite shot was when Jake Weber, who plays Mitch, you know, just takes his walk into the ocean. The way he built it up, he wasn't really there. And maybe it was his last kind of human, you know, ability to say, look, I'm going for a swim. And he just walked out. And I did like the look that the camera gave me, the bright sunny day, the beach, the water, you know, because once that head goes down, the waves are still going. And you kind of feel invited, but the ocean is a fucking haunting place.
Right. Well, it also then makes me think like, okay, so this parasite, this creature, this whatever it is that's enveloping and taking these host bodies,
Yeah.
does it want them all to return back to the ocean? Is it trying to turn them into aquatic life? I don't know.
That's it, yeah.
Like, again, it's just, there's no answer. So
No.
you just kind of like think about what it could be.
Like, what happens if it takes over somebody in the desert? Like, are they going to survive and walk back to the order?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, those are 2 of my favourite scenes as well. Watching Mitch walk out into the water again. The framing is great. Just the scenery, the colours. So I don't know whether it was naturally that way, but I think they've colour coded the film.
Yeah.
So it looks very vibrant in certain places. So yeah, I think the cinematography is really good there. And again, also Jane walking into the woods. That's the real cosmic kind of, oh my god, the start of something strange.
Yeah.
But I also really liked Emily, stepping in the weird creature and then doing the operation in the kitchen.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
very, very well done. Very gruesome and very stomach churning to watch. And of course, like, we only see one creature in its near final evolution, I suppose, and only on screen for a few seconds. That's it for the entire film. Like, we didn't not show you any of it. That's the whole thing.
That's it.
But it was quite memorable, and I think all of the effects in the film were done to a certain degree that exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like any acting moments throughout the entire film, sadly none.
No.
Iain, do you recommend The Beach House?
I kind of do. Like, if you've got an hour and a half and you fancy a low budget horror movie which isn't too gross but just enough to make you a bit squeamish, it's alright. It kind of makes me think of The Happening with Mark Wahlberg, where the trees are trying to kill everybody. This is where the ocean is trying to kill everybody. You know, it's great that there's only four characters in the whole movie, so you don't have too much, you know, character development or character stories or history to really go into. But what you get isn't really enough to set these characters up to make you want to care. You know, Emily, Liana Liberato, is your main lead. She's your Ripley. She's your Sarah Connor. She's got all the skills to try and save the world. She doesn't. But you follow her, like Ari said, the surgery sequence that she's in is really quite good. The special effects for that stuff, the director knew that if the story wasn't good enough, he needed to make it gory in places, but not too gory, so that he ruined the sets he was on, and saved his money. Visually, he's got some flair, but I don't think I'll be seeing him writing and directing any other movies, unless he makes Beach House 2.
Right.
Weekend at Beach House or whatever.
No, I really can't fully recommend The Beach House, as I felt mostly underwhelmed with everything this horror film has to offer. And my biggest complaint would be the very slow plot development, in that it was incredibly slow paced with uninteresting characters where nothing of real note happens until like the 45-minute mark of the runtime. There was plenty of foreshadowing, building to the Lovecraftian reveal, but there just wasn't enough material to keep me interested, and when the film gains momentum, it was too little too late, and I was already bored. The acting all round was just fine, nothing really bad, while Jake Weber was pretty decent and the standout here. The effects were very well done, used sparingly and to good effect, was rather disgusting in some parts, so I quite enjoyed that. The cinematography, as we've said, was pretty good. Great framing and composition with some good colour grading. It made some shots very striking. I also want to mention the lack of music throughout the entire film was a really good choice. It really helped build an uneasy tension. The silence was creepy and unnatural, and it worked very well for this film. So, yeah, severely bad pacing, long drawn-out filler scenes early on. It just killed this one for me, in that it was... if it was a 45-minute Twilight Zone or Black Mirror episode, I think I'd enjoy it so much more. But I'd also say you might enjoy this. Like, it's a small, independent, indie horror movie. I didn't hate it, but I would be reluctant to recommend it. Wish you were here. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.